When you think about what makes a hospital safe, your mind probably jumps to things like sterile scalpels or brilliant surgeons. But what if I told you that one of the most critical parts of healthcare safety is something we almost never see? That's right, it's managing the waste. Today we're going to take a deep dive into India's Biomedical Waste Management Rules and figure out why, even with clear regulations, some really dangerous gaps are still a huge problem.
So let me just ask you this straight up. When you walk into a hospital, what do you think is the single most dangerous thing in there? Is it some superbug, a piece of surgical equipment? Just take a second and think about it.
Well, the answer is probably not what you expect. It's pretty shocking, but arguably one of the biggest hidden dangers is the trash. All that waste that's created every single minute of every day. And when it's mismanaged, it can spread infections like wildfire, posing a massive risk, not just to the patients and staff inside, but to the entire community outside.
And look, this is not some small, isolated problem. It's a systemic challenge, a hidden hazard that a lot of hospitals, even the ones with the best intentions, really struggle with. To get why, we've got to be crystal clear on what we're even talking about.
The official term for this stuff is biomedical waste, or BMW for short. And this covers everything. I mean, from a used syringe, to bandages, to actual human tissue. Basically, any waste that's a byproduct of treating people or animals, and believe me, the rules for handling it are incredibly strict, for a very, very good reason.
So if the rules are so clear, why do things go wrong so often? Well, it's usually not just one thing, right? It's this messy combination of factors. You've got staff who haven't been trained properly, old habits that are just really hard to break, not enough internal checks and balances, and in places that are growing fast like Telangana, the sheer number of patients can completely overwhelm the systems they have in place.
The entire safety system, all of it, starts at one single moment, the second that piece of waste is created. And right here, this is where we find the first, and honestly, the most common breakdown. It all begins with something that sounds so simple, putting the right trash in the right bin.
The absolute foundation of all of this safety stuff, it's segregation. Every single type of waste has its own color-coded home. So infectious waste like used gloves, that goes in a red bag. Anatomical waste goes in yellow. Sharps like needles have to go in a white puncture-proof box. But what happens all the time are these common, simple mistakes, like tossing infectious waste in with the regular trash or cramming way too many needles into a sharps container. And that one little mistake breaks the entire chain of safety right from the get-go.
But okay, it's not just about the bends. The problem goes way deeper. There are these, invisible gaps in the system, cracks in the process that are every bit as dangerous as using the wrong color bag. And a lot of the time, these gaps come down to people.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter. I mean, think about that. You can have the most perfect, detailed rules written down on paper, but they are totally useless if the people actually doing the work don't know them, or worse, don't follow them. This brings us to the silent killer of good policy, training, or the lack of it.
When training is just a check-the-box thing you do once when you're hired and not something that's constantly reinforced, this is what happens. You've got staff, especially the busy housekeeping teams, who just toss waste into whatever bin is closest. They might rip off their protective gear too early, skip washing their hands, or fumble with dangerous items like needles. And look, these aren't people trying to cause harm. It's the direct result of a system that fails to keep them properly and continuously educated.
Okay, so what happens after the waste is finally in a bag? How do we make sure it gets from a patient's room to its final, safe disposal? The answer is tech, specifically barcoding. And let's be super clear here, under the rules, this isn't some nice-to-have suggestion. It is absolutely non-negotiable. You have to be able to trace this stuff.
So in a perfect world, here's how the journey of a bag of medical waste is supposed to work. It gets filled and boom, right then and there, it gets scanned with a unique barcode. Think of that barcode as its digital passport. It gets tracked every step of the way as it moves through the hospital, and then it's scanned one last time at the treatment facility. This creates a secure, totally unbroken chain of custody.
But you know what's coming, right? In the real world, that chain gets broken all the time. Bags leave the wards without any barcode at all. Or maybe the scanning is done in a big batch at the end of a shift, which completely defeats the whole purpose of real-time tracking. This isn't just sloppy. It's a huge red flag for auditors. It makes it literally impossible to know if that hazardous waste is being disposed of correctly or just illegally dumped somewhere.
And that brings us to maybe one of the most immediate life-or-death issues here, sharps. Used needles are a huge source of injury for healthcare workers. The rules could not be clearer. You never,
ever recap a used needle, you never overfill a sharps container, and yet, these incredibly dangerous mistakes happen all the time, putting staff at risk of contracting serious diseases every single day.
Okay, so this all sounds pretty bad, I know. But it is not a lost cause. Not at all. In fact, there's a really clear blueprint for compliance, a prescription, you could say, for how any hospital or clinic can actually get this right.
It really boils down to 5 key steps. First, you have to update all your procedures to match the latest rules. Second, and this is crucial, you have to do practical, hands-on training, not just once, but every few months. Third, go digital with your paperwork. It makes tracking everything so much easier. Fourth, you've got to invest in the right infrastructure, proper bins, secure storage rooms, all of it. And finally, number 5, you have to run your own weekly internal audits to catch these problems before the official inspectors do. This is about building a real culture of safety, not just cramming for an exam.
And at the end of the day, this is what it's all about. Managing biomedical waste isn't just about following some bureaucratic rules to avoid getting a fine. It is a fundamental, non-negotiable part of providing ethical healthcare. It's a moral obligation to protect your workers, your patients, and your community.
Which really leaves us with one final and, I think, crucial question. This isn't just a problem for hospitals in one part of the world. It's a global issue. That waste from your local clinic or hospital, it has to go somewhere. So the real question is, do you have any idea if it's being handled safely? Is your community truly protected? Something to think about, for sure.